I'm all distracted because there's a lovely bird on top of my sunflower plants. Hi there, welcome back to my channel. This is Lydia with Sweet King's Garden, and this is the third installment to my fertility and pregnancy journey. And I've just shot a garden tour, so that is why I'm wearing the same exact outfit. So if you're interested in both pregnancy and gardening stuff, I encourage you to check out that video. But I am here to report on how the second trimester is currently going for me. So today is Thursday, August 18th, and tomorrow will mark 17 weeks pregnant. So I am nice and cozy in the second trimester, and man, do I have a lot to report to you. So if you haven't had a chance to reflect on my first trimester video, I will link that up here for you to review. But just to recap, the major symptoms that I had in the first trimester were nausea, food aversions, and energy. So flash forward to the second trimester, which is end of the 13th week, beginning of 14th or something like that. My food aversions disappeared almost overnight. So my biggest food aversion I had was that I could not really tolerate any meat whatsoever, despite how it was cooked. Just did not want anything to do with it. So around the 13 week mark, I noticed that meat was sounding a little more appetizing to me, so I tried meat in small doses. So I was still very suspicious because I wasn't sure if I'd be able to tolerate it, but there was one weekend that I was happy to say that I had a hot dog and a hamburger. And that was such a huge deal. And my sister said the fact that it was a big deal is a big deal. So I'm just so happy. I've tried a lot of things since then and am back to almost my normal eating habits. And it is just so crazy how your body changes so quickly too. So very happy about that. So in terms of new symptoms, I have started daily headaches. So my headaches started almost at 12 weeks on the dot. Every single morning I would wake up. Didn't matter how much water I had drank. I was thinking maybe from dehydration. And I did notice that as I went throughout my day and would drink more and more water, the headaches would subside but never dissipate completely. And so I read that sometimes having a little bit of caffeine, so like a small cup of coffee, may help, and that did help. So I was able to incorporate coffee back into my diet, but not regularly. I may have like 2 or 3 days a week that I'm having a small iced coffee, and otherwise I'm just drinking water all day. I also started waking up with muscle cramps, like Charlie horses in my legs in the middle of the night, to the point where it was waking me up out of my sleep. Again, I was thinking dehydration. I recently had my midwife appointment, and she did note that to alleviate headache symptoms, increasing my magnesium could be a way to help resolve that issue. When I was talking about it with my midwife, she said magnesium will fix that issue too. So needless to say, I've started to add magnesium into my daily prenatal routine. So I'm taking my prenatal vitamins, calcium chewables, a probiotic for vaginal health, and then now magnesium. So hoping with all of that, I can continue to have a healthy, comfortable pregnancy. The second trimester has alleviated a lot of the pregnancy symptoms I had, and as a result, because I'm not necessarily showing or feeling the baby yet, I was very suspicious and self-conscious, like, am I even pregnant anymore? And that kind of messes with your mind a little bit, because I mean, at least for me, I just wanted some kind of reassurance, and at least the food aversions were my daily reminder that I'm still pregnant and growing a baby. So I know that it can be pretty controversial to have at-home fetal Dopplers, but we did have a friend who lent us her Doppler, and my husband and I, before we even tried to find the baby for the first time, we went into it knowing, like, if we don't find the heartbeat, do not get alarmed, because the issue with perhaps trying to find the baby at home is that the baby is still so small, especially in the early weeks, that you may not be able to detect the heartbeat. Doesn't mean the heartbeat doesn't exist or that there's a problem. It just means that the baby is so small, they have plenty of room to run around or swim around, and that it's no cause for concern. So before my husband and I used that at-home Doppler, we went into it saying, like, if we don't find the baby, don't be alarmed, we're not professionals. But I am so happy we were able to find the baby almost immediately. We've used the Doppler about 3 or 4 times since that time. So I want to say the first time we used the Doppler was around 14 weeks, yeah, about 3 weeks ago, and we've only used it maybe 4 times. And it's really just like a fun thing at the end of the evening, like after dinner, like, hey, do you want to try and find the baby? But again, we're not like obsessive over it or anything. So I offer that to anyone who's kind of in the same type of in-between limbo period where you're like feeling great in your second trimester and you really don't have any symptoms. If you're someone with high anxiety or may stress over not finding the baby's heartbeat, just consider how that will impact you and then make a decision from there. It was obviously some reassurance. I still have not felt the baby kick yet or like feeling any flutters, not that I'm noticing at least. Still get very much bloated, so I'll have days where I'm like, I'm definitely showing, and I have a little bump, but then like the next day I'll wake up and I'm like, oh, that's smaller than yesterday. I wonder if it was probably just like bloat. So just that in-between stage is like just kind of a tricky space to be in, but that's okay. I'm taking it one day at a time and just being patient and humble to the process. So in terms of pregnancy cravings, can't say that I've had any yet, although very early on, as part of the first trimester that I forgot to mention in my last video, I was craving like salt and vinegar chips or boardwalk fries with a lot of malt vinegar. Just thinking about that makes my taste buds just like go crazy right now. But I haven't like indulged in those cravings very much, and they're not like super like out there or anything. So I mean, I don't think about them constantly. But one of the things that I've been loving are 2 things. So I'm still drinking a ton of water throughout the day, and my first drink always has my electrolyte drink, and then throughout the day I'll just refill my water bottle, or in this case a mason jar. So what I've started to do is the liquid IV that I drink, it's in an orange pack. I'll try and link the flavor that I really enjoy up here. But what I found is that my first drink with the liquid IV, if I add some fresh basil in it, it tastes like basil lemonade, and it is so refreshing. So now what I've been doing recently is I'll drink my liquid IV drink first thing in the morning, about halfway down the jar or cup, and then refill that up to kind of dilute the lemonade mixture a little bit more, and then just keep on filling that up, and then slowly the flavor dissipates throughout the day. But just having that fresh basil in the drink, just so good. So it's really keeping me motivated to drink a ton of water. And I am happy to report that on my last midwife appointment, she said I was plenty hydrated. So that was really nice. I'm glad, of course, that she brought to my attention that I was dehydrated during my earlier appointment, because it really set things into perspective about how much water I need to drink. So all is good in terms of that. I mentioned that the limbo period about not necessarily having any type of pregnancy symptoms and not showing yet can take a toll mentally. But now I've also been obsessing about getting clutter out of my house. I don't know if it's nesting or what, but my husband and I have started to think about what things we want to add to our baby registry. There's so much that we can do in terms of like setting up a baby room and all of the things that you can get for a baby. We're definitely just looking at it where we want to just be very minimal. We don't want a ton of stuff. With that, it's causing me to reflect that we currently have a lot of stuff between him and I, me especially, and my stuff takes up a lot of the space that will be converted to the baby's room. So every single day I'm like obsessing about these little projects that I want to set out for myself to try and just really cleanse our house and get rid of the extra stuff that we don't need, at least for my stuff. I don't want to force him to get rid of his stuff, but I had told my husband, like, I want to get the house to where I really want it in terms of like organized and clean and tidy well before the baby's here instead of just in time, because I want to be able to enjoy that like nice relaxing space that I'm envisioning. So I think this is going to kick off quite a project for me. In addition to like my garden duties, I'm going to be focused on trying to organize and get our house into shape. One big item that has come with the second trimester is that my husband and I have announced our pregnancy publicly on Facebook and Instagram, and actually we announced it I think at the 10-week mark, so technically in the first trimester, but I forgot to include that in the very first video. So the theme, as I had mentioned in my introductory video, is that we're growing something new in terms of gardening, because this started as a gardening YouTube channel, and that obviously has translated into now our pregnancy journey. So now every week I'm just so excited. Every Friday morning I bolt out to the garden and I see what in the garden matches what the estimated size of the baby is for that week. So I have one of those baby apps from Baby Center where it will tell me like your baby's the size of a key lime or your baby's the size of an apple. So instead of just posting an apple or a key lime, I'm finding fresh produce from my garden to show the baby's progress. So I think that's kind of fun, although I'm starting to run out of produce that's the size of the baby, just because a lot of my stuff was producing early on and we're starting to transition to our fall garden. But with that being said, I'm also starting things now so that I'll have something around 6 to 9 pounds towards the end of the season. So that's super fun, and it seems like people enjoy me just sharing my journey and that type of update as well. So if that's something that you're interested in seeing, feel free. You'll see that on my Instagram and you can follow along with my weekly updates there. So that actually concludes this update. My plan from here is to check in every 2 weeks or so with you to show how things are going. Once I feel like I have a pregnancy bump, I'll probably show that just so that it's captured. I'm not really taking pictures or anything, but right now I think it's just bloat, so I don't want to blast that on YouTube. So I hope you've enjoyed this update, and thank you so much for taking this journey along with me. So take care.